you're in Asia, and like you realize like, hey, Australia is not that far, or New Zealand is, and then like once you're down there, you got to go to New Zealand. Somewhere like halfway through our trip, Elizabeth was like, hey, like, what, do you want to go to Antarctica? I didn't know you could go to Antarctica. And half of the places that we went, I didn't know where they were at first. Like
our
my
geography is a lot better now.
Oh yeah.
Hey there, it's Dr. Ryan Corte, and I'm looking for North Carolina licensed optometrists or those interested in becoming licensed in the state of North Carolina to join my team. If that's you or somebody you know, reach out to me on social media or email me at ryan.court1@gmail.com. Now, enjoy today's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Ryan Reflects. My name is Dr. Ryan Corte, and today I am here with two of my fellow North Carolina colleagues. I'm not even sure I can call them North Carolina colleagues compared to what they did over the last, 18 or so months. But welcome to the show, Nicolas Vu and Elizabeth Davis. How you guys doing?
We're doing great. Thanks.
Ryan.
Yeah, appreciate you having us on here.
Of course. And of course, yeah, you guys are my fellow North Carolinian, ODs. But the reality of the situation is what you guys were able to pull off in traveling the world over a year is something we are going to dive into. But before I even kind of go that pathway, I want you both to tell me a little bit about yourself. Nick, I'll start with you.
So I'm originally from Southern California, born and raised there, went to college out there at USC. And then I moved to Memphis to do optometry school there. My parents moved to Texas while I was in undergrad, and I was kind of trying to find a school a bit closer to them, and ended up really liking SCO in Memphis. And, that's where I met Elizabeth. After that, kind of just followed her out this way. So I guess that's a little bit about me.
I was going to say, you guys didn't land on the West Coast. You guys are in the East Coast for sure. So she won that battle.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, can't complain though. It's been great out here. I really love it. So yeah, I'm glad it all worked out the way it did.
Absolutely. How about you, Elizabeth?
Yeah, so I'm originally from just outside of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So we're living back close to where my family is now. But I did my undergrad at UNC Chapel Hill. And then, like Nick said, we went over to, SCO for optometry school. I feel like as far as the travel bug and stuff like that, we both kind of grew up, doing some trips with our families and that sort of thing. That's always been something that we both enjoyed doing and kind of bonded over.
Absolutely.
Early on, meeting each other at school. But yeah, we're living in North Carolina now, moved back after our travels abroad. And so, we're happy to be back.
Well, trust me when I say we are going to dive into that for sure. But I want to take a step back here. When did you first see each other? Like, do you remember the moment where you're like, oh, that's Nick, or oh, that's Elizabeth, and kind of just starting to build that, whether it was a friendship, whether it was like an instant, like, hey, like let's start seeing each other. What did that look like?
I absolutely do remember the first time we met. It was like the weekend before optometry school started. Everyone through like Facebook and all this, we're all getting our incoming class together. We all ended up meeting at this bar, this like terrace bar over the Mississippi River in Memphis. And we ended up standing at the bar next to each other. She had this blue drink, and I was like, what do you got there? And it was like the bartender special. But that was kind of our icebreaker. It was just this like fluorescent blue drink. And, we had both just taken a year off. I had spent some time in Texas with my family, just kind of getting to know the lay of the land there, not having any experience there. So just kind of spending time with my family there, my little brother. And then Elizabeth had also taken a year off. She did something more exciting, but, we just kind of like bonded over, her time in Asia, and some of my travels with my family there. So that's kind of where it started. We were just friends for a couple of years, and then, really just sort of clicked on so many levels, and just could really see a future together. It's awesome to be able to like share optometry as a passion between us, in a way that we could see optometry growing around the world and wanting to be a part of that. And so, it was really easy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, what was that blue drink? Do you remember?
I don't. It was just like one that the bartender was making that night. And I was like, okay, I'll do
Yeah,
that one.
the
Yeah,
special, whatever, maybe Nick, is your favorite color blue?
I
that's
think
it.
it is. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's changed over the years, but honestly, like, yeah,
yeah.
I
That
probably,
was
He
yeah,
was
for
drawn
sure.
to
the
you,
initial.
he was curious.
Yeah, we did end up having part of our. We got married and had our reception in Memphis, so we did have
Oh,
one
cool.
part like reception of our wedding at
Oh
that
yeah,
same bar where we met. So it was very full circle for us to get
yeah.
to
It was
go
fun.
back and get to do that.
Mm.
Yeah.
So you both, Nick, you had referenced you had taken a gap year, but Elizabeth was more exciting.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, did you travel abroad during your gap year? What did that look like?
I did. So after college, I debated going straight into optometry school, and then I was just feeling a little burnt out. So I took a year and went to Thailand to teach English.
No kidding.
Yeah, so that was really cool. I got to travel around a little bit while I was there, and we went to Vietnam and Cambodia. So initially, we were talking more about Vietnam because that's where Nick's parents were from, and that's where
Hmm.
he had traveled as a kid. So probably the first conversation I remember us having, which is so crazy
Yeah.
now, having this conversation with you because we're kind of back on that same like spending a big chunk of our last year in Vietnam
Hmm.
together. So it's very cool.
Yeah, it's wild to think about.
Yeah, it is.
And you guys both, how did you guys both land on optometry? Was this something that you knew, Nick, before you had taken the gap year, or was the gap year to figure out next steps?
Yeah, it was something I knew like for a little while. I tried my best to like find other things to do. Like when I was a kid, I wanted to do photography forever. I just loved, I grew up around a lot of people. My dad, like my cousins, like really amazing photographers, and I kind of grew up around that. I was really familiar with shooting film and developing own photos and things like that. But that was like in a time where like social media, it really wasn't the thing. We just had, people were like still using MySpace and
Hmm.
taking like bathroom selfies, right? Like there's nothing special about photography as like a career like it is now. And my parents were like, "Why don't you find something a little more practical?" And I was like, "All right, well, I'll see what I can do." And like just throughout like some like biology classes, you kind of break down like the physiology of the eye and like optics in some ways through that. It just really clicked for me. I really found it easy to grasp, and like I
Hmm.
spent like I'm a myope and like was very familiar with my like optometrist, and have some like cousins that are optometrists too. So it's like once that clicked for me how similar the eye and the camera are, I was like, this is great. It allowed me to kind of like I still enjoy photography as like a side, like just for fun, but to be able to help people and in many ways like help them see well and do the things they enjoy. That was kind of like a no-brainer. This was sort of like the field that was meant for me. Yeah, and so over the years I tried to find different things, but ended up all just being like hobbies. So it's all worked out.
Well, it's a good 1-2 punch because I've seen your pictures, I've seen your photography and video art. You're very, very good at
He's
it,
really
and
talented.
he's
Yeah.
Thanks, I
very
appreciate it.
talented. He's very talented, and so 100%. I think a lot of times when I'm talking about, like for example, the crystalline lens, like it's kind of like the lens of a camera when I'm talking to patients
Right.
about when it clouds up and turns into a cataract. So there's a lot of similarities in
Yeah,
optics.
for sure.
I could see that. And then Elizabeth, how about you on your pathway? Because if I remember correctly, you have family in optometry. Is that
Yeah.
correct? Is that
So
kind of what?
both my parents are optometrists, so I grew up around it. I don't think that was initially what kind of drew me towards it because I think when you're young, you always want to like forge your own path and do your own
Hmm.
thing. And that was
Hmm.
kind of me going into college. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I think I changed my major like 4 times. Um, but I landed on wanting to do something in medicine, so I looked at a lot of the different allied health professions, and I just, I decided that, after doing a bunch of shadowing, I didn't want to do teeth. I didn't want to do feet. I didn't want to do, anything else. I was mostly interested in the eye. And so, I teched for a while and I just ended up really loving it. I think, I saw my parents like the lifestyle and how much they enjoyed their jobs and how much the patients, appreciated them. And so, it was a good fit for me in the end.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I kind of did the same thing as you. I didn't know about optometry. I did a little bit of shadowing, and I got scared off from other professions just based on some of the feedback that I was getting from the providers, or I was like, I don't want to go this route based on maybe some of the day-to-day operations, but it's a great profession. So you guys met in optometry school, had a passion for optometry, but also a passion for travel. And then somewhere between, because you guys had got married in, what year did you guys get married?
We got married in 2021.
Okay. So you got married just after COVID.
Yeah.
And somewhere from that optometry school meeting to present day, you guys formulated a plan to travel the world for an entire year. And so I want to know, when did that start in its infancy? And then when did it really pick up steam to what transpired over the last year?
I think it was really like fourth year of optometry school. We started hearing about these Bosch programs that were a year long that were like partnering with schools internationally where they were building up optometry programs abroad. And so that's when we really first started talking about it. And it just happened that the program that took 2 optometrists was the program in Vietnam. And so we were like, oh man, this could really be like a possibility for us. We both did our residency at the Salisbury VA. So we're like, we know we want to do residency first. So that's when we really started being like, okay, after residency, like we're going to go abroad for a year and, teach in this optometry school and just, be totally immersed there. So that was our plan. We had, our applications in during residency, and we were, the residency was 2019 to 2020 for us. And it was right in that springtime of 2020 when COVID hit that we were like, this is not a good time for us to go abroad, because we would just be kind of stuck in an apartment teaching virtually, which we weren't as excited about.
We're doing right now. You could do this from the United States.
Exactly.
I don't blame you.
Exactly.
And so we ended up taking jobs in North Carolina, and we're just like, well, maybe we could, work for a few years. A lot of the jobs and stuff we were seeing were like, we want 3 years of experience. So we're like, okay, we'll work for 3 years, really just save up, continue to live like we're students, like we're residents again, basically, and just, save up for this, grand year that we plan to have in 3 years. And that was kind of path towards planning for that year, but it was a long process.
Well, I remember meeting you guys during your residency, and I don't remember who told me. One of you guys was like, telling me about this, and I'm like, wow, that's like a tall order. But I mean, if you guys have the time and the energy, like you don't have kids, like go for it. I'm thinking in my head, but it's one thing to like think it up. It's another thing to execute.
Yeah.
Holy cow. So when did that actually start taking place, and how did your family and friends like kind of respond?
So it's funny because I feel like, we talked about it while we were applying to residencies, and that's some things like I mentioned in some of my like applications and stuff. And so like it had been on our minds for a while, and like, our parents like knew about it, and what they just, I don't know that they ever
humored us at the beginning. Like,
seriously,
sure, you're gonna go do this for a year.
Yeah. And then, when, like right at the beginning of the pandemic, it was like when we realized that dream was kind of like, like taking a back seat. And we're starting to get a little bummed. I guess that's when they started realizing like, oh, you guys were serious? Like, this is what you wanted? Yeah, we really were. Just something like a passion that we had, and I guess like the further along we got into our into working, we had corporate jobs, and they were really great jobs. Like we really enjoyed the camaraderie that we had with our team there. We had such a great experience. It was like tough to leave, but at the same time, we just felt like we kept kind of thinking ahead. And it's something I know you do a lot, where you kind of just like, where do you see yourself in 3 years, 5 years? We thought about it a ton, and we're like this is great. Life is really good right now, but if you just keep doing this, like, like 20 years might go by, and we'll be having regrets. And we thought about that part, and we're like, shoot, it is sort of a leap of faith, but we're just that part of us, the part that was like, will you have regrets if you don't do this, was like just so strong. Like, let's just go for it, like it. We thought it would be just so worth it that it didn't matter, like some of the challenges that we would face, or like, kind of setting some things
Yeah.
for a later date, just like delayed gratification on some other things. Like we still share one used car. I mean, like I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
15 years old.
Delayed buying a house, delayed having kids. Like, yeah, we just put off a lot of, big like life events that we were seeing a lot of our classmates kind of go through in exchange for us getting the chance to go and do this for a year. And we felt like that trade-off was worth it for us.
Oh my gosh. I don't know anybody, as I referenced before we hit record, who has pulled off what you guys pulled off. So the fact that you were drawn to it, the fact that you stuck to the plan, the fact that you even tried to maybe table it for a while and COVID only like double and tripled down on your feelings towards it. Like I think when COVID probably happened, you're sitting there like, no, we wanted to do this. Did you find that even when that hit that's when you were like, we have to follow our intuition?
Yeah, that kind of hurt.
Yeah, that was tough. And one of the other tough things was the nonprofit that runs the organization that helps, get international teachers to the school. They really suffered during COVID. So they actually lost their funding between, our residency time in 2020 when, they were paying for teachers to come and teach there, until when we went, they had completely lost their funding. So we were a little bit worried, like, maybe we, waited too long. Maybe we lost this window of time. But we really just kept in touch with them. Every 6 months we'd send an email and be like, hey, we're still interested. Let us know when the program is like completely up and running, like it was pre-COVID, and like we still want to come, and there's 2 of us, and just let us know. And there was another couple of US ODs that have been at that school and have been helping them for, probably 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
And they were so supportive of us the whole time. And just really communicative. And like, I don't think we would have figured out all of the logistics and all the red tape and trying to get into, our credentialing at the school without them. So we're super grateful to Bob and Kim. Shout out to them.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I'm really glad that we stuck with it and were able to go.
Yeah. So, with all that, like she's saying, with that lack of funding, like, unfortunately, like, there wasn't really like a stipend anymore. We potentially would have been, getting somewhat of like a residency salary, and like in Vietnam, that really goes a long way. And, that would have been awesome to have. But, like, I think part of us like just wanted to be involved with that so badly. And, the couple, Dr. Bob and Kim Moulter over there, they were just like, they're just angels. They're amazing. And just in talking to them and their enthusiasm for the program and what, the potential for it was. But you could tell they really needed help. And we just like, we're like, let's do it. I don't care. Like, they were like, sorry guys, like they just don't know that they're going to have any funding by the time you get there. And they're like, we're not getting paid or anything, but like, we're like, I mean, if you guys are doing it, like sign us up. Like, it's all right. We don't need to get paid. Fortunately, we have been saving. So we were like, let's just go for it, and that was worth it. So.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize, though, I just picked this up obviously through our conversation. So you guys ended up going to the school in Vietnam, and then how did you guys get all the traveling that you were able to accomplish over that time frame? Because you guys went all over the place. Like, what did that look like from getting out there and setting up and getting involved in that, but also, I mean, you guys went all over the place, right? I mean,
Yeah.
what are tell me about the school first, I guess, and then we'll go into the travel.
Yeah.
Like, what did the logistics look like?
The way we kind of did it, we ended up teaching for a semester. So we traveled like maybe 6 months on the front end. And then we were in Vietnam for 3 or 4 months teaching. That was our semester there. And then we traveled for another 4 months on the back end.
It was supposed to be a whole year of teaching, but at that point we were like, we already mentally planned to, like we already put in our notices, and we're like, we already planned for a year off. So, let's just make the most of it.
We had a lot of bucket list trips kind of in mind that we wanted to do that are hard to do when you have limited PTO and are coming from the States. And so
and
I think
kids
we probably,
and mortgage and trust me, right here. I've been here, so I get it.
Yeah, exactly. So we were like trying to check off the big ones that are harder trips to do. So we did spend probably the first, 4 months at least in Asia and Southeast Asia. And so we both made a list of countries that were like our must visits. And then we just kind of looked to see what would make sense along the route that we were taking for our flights. And so, we made a lot of decisions kind of just, on a whim, especially towards the end. I think I had the first maybe like 3 months or so planned out before we left, but we did, a good amount of just, choosing cheap
there were some places
and...
where, we had a flight and we get to the airport and they're like, hey, like, where's your next flight? Like, when are you leaving this country?
Planned out.
We were like, oh. That was like when we just we're flying to the Philippines. They're like, where are you going next? Because like we need to know when you're leaving.
Let us book a flight to Singapore.
Yeah, so we just would just hop on and but like you said, the first 3 months or so were like planned out, and but as we had those bucket list trips, but we also like along the way found like, hey, while we're here, that country's not too far, or we would just be like cheap flights from here, and
absolutely,
it really was just like amazing to have like a home base in a sense, like in Asia, or just know we were going to be based there for a little bit and just make the most of our time there. And then
so the front half of the trip was Asia, and then you guys spent time at the school. And then during that time at the school, like what was that experience actually like once you got there?
So we fly into Ho Chi Minh City or Saigon in Vietnam, and like the first night we were there, we got to meet the two doctors that we mentioned, Bob and Kim from Michigan, and they kind of just filled us in. They're like, hey, this is like these are the classes that we want you to help out in. We weren't because we weren't getting paid or anything, like they didn't need to go through the government to give us like faculty positions like officially, but basically we were guest lecturers. And so they gave us a few classes. We did a contact lens class, we did a case analysis class, and we did a basically intro to like the eye exam, like clinical skills.
Okay.
Like slit lamp, BIO, direct.
Yeah, we learned how to do shiatsu tonometry, which we had never done before.
Yeah,
right.
So we got to teach that too.
There's a bit of learning.
Yeah, but they teach like sclerals and ortho-K, and they're pretty advanced with some of the contact lenses that they're doing. And some of our classmates were nice enough to send us some scleral kits that we had gotten at STO, so we got to donate those to the school, so they were super excited.
Yeah,
one of our kits.
Yeah, one of the doctors went back to the U.S. for a wedding, and then we like all of our friends from optometry school, and we had messaged the class, and people had sent in scleral lens kits for them to bring back to us, which was awesome.
That's so cool.
Everything at this school. So there's only 2 optometry schools in Vietnam. Optometry is just it's an emerging profession. Typically, everyone goes to the ophthalmologist, and the ophthalmologist does everything, but there's just so little access to them.
It's such a growing country, too, and it's such a young country that the access just isn't there, and so it's so needed.
So there's the 2 optometry schools that have both started in the past, like 10 years. Ours, we had the benefit of our school had an English requirement for the students to come to that medical school. And so it made it easy for us. We could teach in English and they could understand for the most part. And the challenging thing is, there's so many optometry terms I didn't realize that are just so unique to like the profession of optometry and eye care. We had TAs having to translate some of the concepts or ideas, or sometimes they just use the English word for it because there's like no one's used that word before. So that's one thing that made it really easy for us to transition into teaching. I didn't realize like how easy it would feel to teach. Like, I think it comes from like we had some extras when we were at our residency at the Salisbury VA, but just from like training technicians and trying to, if they're eager to learn and kind of share information with them, it almost felt kind of natural, and it was fun. These these kids, they actually come straight out of high school to go into optometry as a profession rather than going through college first. It's a bit of, kind of reality kind of like comes at them quick, because like it's just they may be a little bit shy or like afraid to ask questions and whatnot, but the growth that you see in these kids over just one semester with them, just how comfortable they get with their skills and like and just working with each other, it was great to see. So we really enjoyed it. Yeah.
How did it feel to be able to have that kind of impact? I mean, it's like these kids are drinking out of a fire hose, they're going straight from high school to that point.
Yeah.
It was really rewarding, just like, it's, some things like we felt like, because the program is so new and emerging, the doctors that were there trusted us a lot to, mold things in the way we thought was best. They really had a lot of trust in us. The idea here is that like after enough optometry students graduate and go on to get their like master's degrees, and they can come back and teach and help sustain the school. So eventually there'll be no more Americans going there. But right now, we had a really, I don't know, like it was really neat to be able to help like mold things. And so like some things that we saw, like labs and stuff, like because we weren't in school that long ago, some of the labs that we had were pretty fresh in our minds, maybe because they were a little bit more like, just like they're so nerve wracking at the time. Yeah. I remember a lot of them vividly. And so we were able to kind of coordinate and organize how labs were run differently, perhaps, just in a way that gets them more interactive with their skills. Like for example, like the direct ophthalmoscope lab previously was just kind of like look in and make a drawing. But, we were able to take retinal photos of the students and like, put them into groups, and like they would go through and examine 4 different eyes and have to match up which eye is which, and that just kind of tells us a little bit better. Like they know what they're looking at, and they're studying it to notice defining characteristics like a CD, a crescent, the blood vessels, like so it and they've like they had us kind of write down the protocol so they can kind of repeat that, little things like that. It was really rewarding to be able to be involved and have, to contribute in that way.
100%. Elizabeth, how about you? How did it feel for you? And how did you did that 1 year, the gap year, you were out of the country. So you kind of experienced it in a different light. How did that compare and how did that prepare you for this?
Yeah, I think going into the optometry school was such a different experience because I'm going in, as a professional rather than just a recent, college undergrad. And you have a lot of enthusiasm when you've graduated from college, but maybe not as much of like your knowledge base set yet. But getting to go in, especially after we had, the residency and 3 years of, practicing, I felt like we really, had honed our skills well and could just speak from experience by that point. Which was one of the reasons we were grateful that it worked out for us to not go straight in after residency, because I feel like we had a lot more confidence and a lot more to offer the students. But yeah, like Nick said, just seeing the growth of these students and like they become more comfortable around you the more that they're working with you, and you can see, which ones are really interested in the specialty contacts and which ones, are considering going on and getting their masters and getting to really like, foster the interest that the students have. And, it does seem like in the next few years, like they'll have enough students that will have completed their master's programs outside of Vietnam that can come back and really sustain the program. So it's really exciting to see how well they're doing. And Bob and Kim have really pushed like a medical model of optometry as well. So that's been really great for the profession, that it's not just turning into, refraction and contact lenses and like ignoring the health of the eye. I think it was great that the students were getting so much exposure to the ocular disease aspect of eye care as well.
That's incredible. I mean, optometry truly is a variable profession country to country, right? It's legislatively regulated. It depends on your scope. It depends on the resources. So to see and have that kind of impact, commend you guys a lot. That is wow. That is just incredible. Are you guys staying in touch with that school? Are you guys looking to do something different, maybe at a smaller scale in the future? Like, what does the future hold for, international education at optometric schools?
Yeah, it's something we'd love to do again in the future. I think, we'll have to save up for a little bit longer this time.
Yeah.
We did buy a house, so we have, more responsibilities here now. But yeah, I think the next school that they're talking about opening is in Sri Lanka. So it's nice that we're kind of plugged in now to more of that, international optometry. And, there was another optometrist that was teaching at the Northern Vietnam School who's Scottish. So, she's doing a lot of really cool research as well. But yeah, I mean, it's something we'd love to do in the future. We are staying in touch with, some of the students at the school through social media and some of the, junior faculty that we met. So yeah, we were just, like Nick said, they had messaged us for some protocols about one of the labs that we designed last year. So we're still easily accessible. Yeah. And yeah, Nick wrote a contact lens textbook for them. So they're in the process of translating that. And so, yeah, I mean, we love that kind of stuff. So we're hoping to continually be involved when they need us. Obviously, we want them to spread their wings and, have independence and, be able to run the program the way that they see fit.
Speaking of social media, that's kind of how I got plugged in and seeing what you guys are doing. I think I reached out to Nick and just checked in. I was like, what's going on here? You guys are doing some awesome stuff. So what is that account that you posted your entire travel on, if you don't mind sharing?
Oh, yeah. So that was Nick and L. Nick and ELLE. It's on Instagram. Yeah, that just basically chronicles everything from like the day we left my eye doctor, left our jobs, and just like going through from the beginning straight to like the last day. We ended up visiting 28 countries and we knocked all 7 continents, which was that was fun. Like I did not think that was possible.
Yeah,
that was never really the plan when we went into it either. But you just like you're in Asia and like you realize like, hey, Australia is not that far, or New Zealand is, and then like once you're down there, you got to go to New Zealand, and then and then like I think the last one was like somewhere like halfway through our trip, Elizabeth was like, hey, like, what, do you want to go to Antarctica? I was like, this is funny. Like, you can't, what do you mean? And she was like, do you want to go to Antarctica? And I was like, I didn't know you could go to Antarctica. And half of the places that we went, I didn't know where they were in the map at first. Like
our geography is a lot better now.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Like that. And like Namibia is another one where I had no idea where in the world that was. But, it's, we were able to string some of that together, and just very blessed to kind of have this all work out in a way. So yeah.
Elizabeth, what were some of the highlight countries for you? And then Nick, obviously I'll ask you the same question, but like what were some of like the highs of the trip?
Yeah, I really loved New Zealand. We both enjoy hiking, and I think like scenery wise, that's one of the most stunning countries that we went to. So New Zealand's beautiful. They have great like chicken pot pies and other pies that they make. Hand pies or, just quick, easy food. That was beautiful. Indonesia for beaches is like the most stunning beaches and sunsets I've ever seen in my life. I think road trip wise, we really loved Namibia. I've never been anywhere like that. Like we're just driving our 4x4 and you see like a giraffe or like an ostrich just running around. There were like warthogs that crossed right in front of us.
Yeah, it's like one of the least densely populated countries in the world.
It's so vast. I had never seen the Milky Way until we went there. And then there's just no light pollution, so you can just see everything in the sky. And
just like the rock formations were incredible out there.
Yep. So that was gorgeous. Norway is also very beautiful.
Yeah.
And then getting to go to Antarctica was like being on another planet. That was a crazy way to end our year. It was really, really cool.
Yeah. I saw the penguin pictures and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I mean, those pictures looked out of a doggone National Geographic.
They're for real. Yeah, he did a good job. Yep.
Yeah. Thank you. it kind of, yeah, it's funny how we end up with those.
Oh yeah, we had one snafu
Yeah.
the whole year pretty much.
Yeah, everything was like great, to be honest.
Yeah, we
Like,
stayed healthy, no like
like
hospital visits.
no like missed flights. Like we only had one canceled flight,
Yeah.
some delayed trains, but yeah, overall it was great. But I did get my camera stolen
And passport.
and passport in Italy, and that was kind of a bummer, like absolute bummer.
Yeah.
Like you're still bummed about it.
Yeah, I am.
How did you navigate that? Did you have like a copy of your passport, or like what did you have to do?
So at one point in our trip, we kind of had split off because Elizabeth did a hiking trip with her friends in like the Tour de Mont Blanc, like the mountains in Switzerland, France, and Italy. And then I invited my brother out to come hang out with me. I was like, hey, Francis, like I'm not doing anything I don't have this week and a half planned yet. And the next thing I know, he booked a flight out. So we spent like a week there, and like towards the end, we were at a train station in Rome, trying to just go up to Assisi for a couple days, and just left my stuff with my brother, went to the bathroom, came back, and I saw our platform was up. I was like, hey, let's go. We got to catch that train. And I was like, hey, like, you see my bag? Like, where'd my bag go? And he's like, what bag? And I was like, the bag I left with you right here. There's just so much chaos. There was a train strike that day at the station. So everyone was everywhere, and just like, it's notorious for thefts. Like when I went down my brother had this whole itinerary planned in Assisi, and I was like, you got to just go do that, enjoy it. And I got to report all this stuff and get a new passport because we were flying out like in 2 days. So I went to the train police station, and there's like, you just see like just a slow trickle of people coming in that had gotten stuff stolen. Spent like 6 hours waiting at the police station, and they're like, sorry, that's it for today. And then I came back the next day and finally filed a report, and then went to the U.S. Embassy. People, they were awesome. They were just like, yeah, we can just print out a new temporary passport for you, emergency passport. And so, I ended up, thankfully it was just the camera and the passport, like nothing else. Unfortunately, I was going to edit like a bunch of pictures on this train ride that we were going to take. So all my memory cards, I had just put them right into my camera bag, or my little, but there's at the end of the day, you kind of realize like what's important. I only was going to get one more day to spend with my brother in Italy. And so I showed up there, and we made the most of it, the absolute most of it. And, you just kind of realize at the end of the day, like we're just, we're lucky to be healthy and to be able to even have this time at all. When we found out we were going to Antarctica, I was like, let me just buy like a nicer camera or lens or something just to make the most of that trip. But because otherwise I was carrying around this like little fixed lens camera that would not have zoomed like at all. So it's kind of like a blessing in disguise to be able to, have a little bit of zoom on that trip and get some penguin photos and whatnot. So
yeah.
You guys just rattled off a bunch of places and experiences that I don't even know when the vast majority of optometrists and eye care professionals would even be able to embark on these kind of things. So if somebody wanted to go down your pathway, right? Like kind of choose their own adventure, like what would you tell them?
I would say go for it.
Yeah.
I think you have to be a bit of a planner. And yeah, I mean, as much as you can save. We've seen there's a lot of people that are traveling full time now and not working because they've saved for a few years before. And we've seen people that do it on $35,000 for 2 people. So like, you don't have to be making millions of dollars and like saving up millions of dollars to go do a trip like this. It's just what you're willing to, I don't know, like deal with comfort wise.
Yeah. We didn't stay in
nice places. We stayed in hostels. We stayed in, cheap Airbnbs. Like you can really, choose what you want to do. I mean, I think the biggest thing is not being afraid of, people questioning whether it's the right choice for you or if it's good for your career. Especially in North Carolina, I feel like we're really lucky. And if you're an employee, because there's such a shortage of optometrists here, that we really didn't have the stress of, if we leave, are we going to be able to come back and find a job? Because North Carolina is such a tough state as far as boards go. There's just such a shortage here. So, I think especially if you're a North Carolina OD, that's going to be, an easy transition for you. And, we missed out on stuff while we were gone, of course, birthdays and like our little niece and nephew getting older and things like that. So there's always a trade-off. But I think, like we said earlier, we'd always felt like it was worth it to us to go and have all these experiences and, know that we'd be able to come back and kind of pick up where we left off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we felt like, obviously, like, it's a bit extreme to just, like, quit your job and then do this. But, like, I don't know, like, if somebody else is wanting to do it, I would encourage them to, have that conversation with, the important people in their lives and, like, and then, communicate, like, with an employer or whatever, just, like, it doesn't have to be a whole year.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of times, we kind of, it's challenging to plan, like, trips, around like 2 to 4 weeks of PTO, right? Like, you kind of figure one's for this holiday, one's for that holiday, and then family, and then maybe you get 1 or 2 weeks left to do your own thing. And traveling to and from a place can be challenging, or just take up, like 24 to 48 hours to get all the way to that other side of the world. But I think, we kind of just always felt like saving was important and realizing like we could work another year at the end of our career and just push off retirement just a little bit. And so maybe just take a little unpaid leave, maybe something like that, kind of tack that on to have that trip that you really want to have and just immerse yourself in whatever country or culture that, you've been dying to get out to. So maybe something like that.
Yeah. I think for us, I think a lot of people wait until retirement to try to do like a lot of their big bucket list trips and stuff like that. And, we just feel like, life's so uncertain with, our health and our parents' health. And, we just wanted to go and do this now while we're in the place to do it. And while we're willing to be like a little bit uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. I mean, we definitely plan to travel, hopefully throughout our lives and into retirement as well. But, I think the way that you travel changes as you get older as well. Mm-hmm. And so we're willing to be a little uncomfortable right now with like booking economy seats and, sitting in the middle and, like we said, staying in hostels and, eating chicken pot pie and, that kind of stuff. Like we weren't doing anything too fancy, but it was still so memorable. Mm-hmm. And, we're so glad we got to go do it.
I mean, you guys look over the moon about it, and I mean, I think so many people live vicariously. Have you guys ever heard of the book Die with Zero?
No.
You should. You guys are essentially living the book in regards to taking different periods of time and maximizing it. You have a income potential that's huge in optometry over time. Like you can invest and you're going to do perfectly okay.
Yeah.
But the theory and concept of the book is to maximize certain bucket list activities as you hit certain periods of time. Because when you hit later on in life, let's just say you're retired and then you get older and then you have more illnesses and more issues that could be taking place with your health or with your mind. You have all this money. What are you going to do with it? Right. Mm-hmm. And so it's an interesting read. And I think that you guys would really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Just from like your mindset. I read it. I love the book. I'll link to it in the description for people that want to tune in.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, we'll check that out.
Yeah. What was, so just to clarify then, you guys didn't work at all in regards to compensated jobs on this trip?
No, I wrote like a few articles for an online publication, but that was it. Very small change.
I wasn't sure if teleoptometry was even an option, but
we definitely considered it. We would have loved to, have some sort of like supplement.
Yeah.
But, sometimes like when you're sitting there, like looking at like the time change and stuff. And at the end of the day, it was like, is it really worth us? Like,
like the stress of like making sure we have a stable Wi-Fi connection and like
there's no stable Wi-Fi.
Yeah, the time change or like, you know what?
Makes you appreciate good internet.
It does,
yeah.
sure. It's just not worth it. Like Nick said, we'll work an extra few months or a year at the end of our careers, and
that
that
allowed us to just like sleep in some days here, or like just just be a little bit more flexible while we were away. It would be awesome if we could. If optometry is at a point where you could do good eye exams virtually, but I think there is a time and place to like separate one thing from another.
I think if you were going to stay in one spot for a while, for a few months, doing a telehealth kind of gig would work out better than we were changing countries probably every 2 weeks or so. And so that would have just been tough.
Yeah, you guys are focused on the journey at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, 100%. You don't want to distract it, especially if you save for this at this moment. You want to be present. I understand that. 2 final questions. I want to be sensitive of your time. The first is, what was the biggest takeaway or learning from this entire experience for each of you?
I think for me, especially since we've been back, I think I just have a new perspective on like what's important. I think that sounds cliche, but things that used to bother me in practice, like, a patient getting bothered by something or, whatever it is, I used to let that, ruin my day because I would take it very personally. And, I think after, traveling like we did, I think you just get a new perspective and kind of a new lease on life on, I can let this really mess up my day and bother me, or I can just, accept it for what it is, try to do what I can and move on. And so I feel like I'm trying to maintain that as much as I can. I think it's easier for me right now because we're coming in so fresh after being out of patient care for a long time. We don't have that burnout that we did at the end of our, 3 years when we were leaving. And so, hopefully I'll be able to continue that. But I think you just see so many different ways of living and so many, people can be happy in a lot of different situations. And I think it's just finding the lifestyle, that works for you and kind of the mindset that works for you. And so, that's it for me.
I think for me, one of the bigger things is like, I don't know, just like the value of mentorship. Just like so many people are doing such amazing things in the world, and like, you'd be surprised how willing they are to share their like how they got there, or like share advice for you. And like, we learned from like a lot of people, especially Dr. Bob and Dr. Kim in Vietnam, like they were just like a wealth of knowledge. And by not saying no to anything, just by being like willing to put themselves in places like, it sounds like their experience in Vietnam when they first got there is just wild. Like, if you ever get to talk to them, like they just like started from right at like ground zero with this program. Just from all these experiences, they had so much to share with us, and like, and it really gave us the confidence to just like be part of their team, and then to also know that like whatever we do next, we could. Just be confident in it, and like and to be ambitious like with it. So just like, and then like our parents as well, being mentors for us. Like, I just think like being able to just be open to what people with experience have to say, and like just learn from it.
I feel like you guys have probably grown immensely throughout this process. And so my final big picture question is, how on earth do you get back into American culture and the day-to-day life that you now have after going abroad for a year and doing all that you did?
I think we're still trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
Some days are easier than others. I think I made a mistake by having us come back in the middle of winter. Like our first couple of months back,
a nicer
bleak.
Yeah.
But now that we're back at work and we both enjoy what we do, I think it's made it easier. And being back by family is nice. So just focusing on like the small stuff day to day.
Yeah. Just getting plugged in with like our little friend groups, communities, like
playing our sports.
Getting back into just like routine, there's something to be said about
Yeah.
routine. Like I just kind of I was really getting tired of packing up my bag to make it, like distributing the weight between my luggage and my backpack so that I wouldn't have to pay extra to check it every time, man.
It's nice to be able to like leave your toothbrush out by the sink and not, there's like little things that.
Yeah, I think it was in some ways just really refreshing to be back and have routines. And so, but you know, there are days where you kind of just like, man, like it's annoying. As much as I love it, it is annoying sometimes just to get notifications from your phone or whatever. That's like, this time last year, I'm like, oh man.
Look at this beautiful place.
Yeah,
Look
and
at this
it's
delicious
like,
food. Yeah.
You know, you got like flashes and floaters coming in like in a few
weeks. Back to reality.
Yeah, but I think you know, we're gonna at some point we move into this house, like, you know, print some photos and whatnot, and just cherish them for, you know, these memories for what they were, and not. I don't feel like we look back on it just like wishing we were still there. I think we just can enjoy that, and we tried to have like a cookbook from countries that we really enjoyed visiting, because food is just so much a part of wherever you travel, right? And so like having cookbooks with recipes that kind of take us back there, and to be able to just like, you know, kind of have that moment where you're enjoying that food and you can reflect in it in that way. It's been fun. But yeah, you know, see what happens next.
Well, you guys are doing a good job at it, and I can tell you, you know, congratulations on just pulling it off. And then obviously you guys are getting back into normal life. Congratulations on this home that you're closing on. And I'm just grateful you guys took the time and energy to share your story, because it's one that it's inspirational, you know, and I know you're going to have people reach out to you and say, I want to do this. I feel like, you know, our generation of doctors and just peers want to travel, want to have life experiences. So for anybody who's interested in connecting with you guys to just chat, like what's the best way for them to reach out?
Yeah.
Probably our Instagram.
Yeah, reach out on our Instagram, the Nick and L one.
Yeah.
And if you want to put it in the show notes, you definitely can. We're happy to, you know, talk to anybody that's interested in whether it's just traveling for an extended period of time, like how we went around logistically planning that, if it's like cost of stuff, like we're very transparent.
Which credit cards do you use?
Yeah, which travel credit cards. Nick's done all the research. I'll send itineraries. Like if you're interested in teaching in an optometry school, you know, please reach out to us. We're happy to talk, you know, about it. We're really, you know, passionate about it, and we want everyone to have the experience that they want. So yeah.
Incredible. Well, thank you guys so much. And that's it for today's podcast. For anybody who's listening, make sure that you share this one out, comment, you know, below on any questions you have for these two, and stay tuned for my next podcast where we can reflect and grow stronger together.